Alright, so it's getting pretty late, but I decided to put this video together now. All music will be credited in the description, and all footage is either recorded by me or taken directly from the Dragon Ball Super manga. All rights go to Shonen Jump, Shueisha, Viz, Akira Toriyama, and all that jazz. You know the gist. With that out of the way, I want to get into this. With the very recent ending of the Moro arc and the immediate and honestly quite smooth transition into Granola's story, harkening back to the days where plot points would directly flow into and inform one another, which is a positive trend that I do hope continues, we've been introduced and reintroduced to quite a few new faces, as well as some more familiar ones. Of all these new faces though, the one that has, for good reason, stood out the most and become the most captivating for us is the arc's titular character, Granolah. With all the bits of information we've gotten about his past and his current personality thus far, we've actually been able to piece a pretty interesting and compelling backstory for him. What we have so far, while small admittedly, is way more than enough to provide a huge amount in terms of world building and potential for our story to grow from here. To give a quick introduction into what exactly we do know so far about Granolah, his introduction brought with it the introduction of his race as well. The aliens hailing from planet Serial, the Ceruleans. This is Akira Toriyama after all. However, at this point, it seems that Granolah may be the very last of his race, as at some point in the past, previous to the annihilation of Vegeta by Frieza, we see that Serial was actually brutally attacked by the Saiyans, including one looking awfully similar to our old Saiyan friend Bardock. This creates a very interesting narrative for how Granolah's past played out. We see how he still harbors these feelings of anger and desire for revenge, yet with the destruction of planet Vegeta, still erroneously attributed to a meteor by both Granolah and potentially many others in Universe 7, as well as Frieza's defeat and death long ago, he believed these feelings may never be satisfied. However, as we the readers and audience obviously know, Frieza's been back about twice since that point, 3 times if you include his original return as Mecha Frieza, with the last and latest of these returns still being a quite unsolved case. As a side note, I find the fact that Granolah knew about none of these events a bit interesting, odd even. He seems to be someone who gets around in a cosmos where it has been stated now that information has become power. You'd think with a statement like that, information would probably spread around a little bit quicker, especially for someone with such personal ties to the Frieza Force. Perhaps this means that Frieza is actually having a hard time getting back up on his feet in the universe, while still wiping out entire populations, or that with how hard it is to track Super's timeline, it just hasn't been long enough for that information to spread around every nook and cranny. Now, well, we know where Granolah came from, and where exactly he wants to lead himself, but we don't know where exactly his end goal is going to take him. We don't even know where exactly he's going to align by the end of this saga. Despite his darker qualities, with his stealing and desires for revenge, these are all directed towards Frieza, one of the darkest, most evil tyrants this universe has ever known. And while he also has pent-up aggression towards the Saiyans of Vegeta, there is a chance that Goku and Vegeta's actions could convince him to give up his hatred for them in particular, since they really are not exactly the Saiyans he once knew. So while there are definitely many people who believe he may be the potential villain of this storyline, it certainly does not account for everyone. Anywhere you can find discussion of him, his purpose, this arc as a whole, you will find a sizable number of people who will go against this assumption. Some even go as far as to say that he may turn out to be the true hero of this saga. Personally, I think my theories lie somewhere in the middle. From what we've seen in our story so far, this arc is shaping up to become a much bigger saga. With this much setup, a whole new character design with a growing, fleshed out backstory, the seemingly imminent return of Frieza, the ominous foreshadowing of a new contender for the position of Universe 7's strongest warrior, as well as the continued growth of both Goku and Vegeta into their forays into godhood, it's safe to say we'll be in for a pretty wild ride. For these reasons, I don't think Granolah simply entering into the story as the next major villain is just as interesting or compelling as a few different options. While I certainly find the particular positions of anti-hero, or even the rarer anti-villain to be much better options, I think we can find particular story purpose that can not only appease those who want to see more of Granolah, but also an interesting storyline for Frieza, and potentially even a type of redemption for Goku's character, which, while I'm not generally on board with most showcasing of Goku bashing, would still be very helpful for those who are very weary of his antics throughout Super and some of his more recent decisions. The fact of the matter is, no matter the type of quote-unquote redemption or alliance Frieza formed with Goku during the Tournament of Power, he is still a very, very big threat, if not to the safety of the Earth at the moment, then at the very least to the countless number of lives he terrorizes across galaxies. Goku is no warrior of justice, but he has always had an issue with bad people, not only when those people harmed others, but especially when they harmed his friends. Now, he also has issues asking these friends how they feel about these former enemies joining their main team, but these are all equal facets of his character which deserve to be viewed as a whole and not in separate parts, as some people and some of modern Dragon Ball tends to do. Now, these ideologies that Goku has, while they have completely backfired on him before, I don't believe they've ever truly been stress tested in a planned, charted way. This arc could potentially be the chance to change that. Granolah's current major goal is to grow stronger in order to surpass and defeat Frieza. While his character seems to imply he would want to achieve this all on his own, a goal like this clearly affects and involves many, many other people. Goku and Vegeta are going to have to make a decision, which will affect not only the rest of this arc, but by proxy, their entire lives. Which is kind of how decisions work, however big or small. I believe that through the course of this arc, Goku and Vegeta will need to decide whether they side with Frieza or whether they side with Granolah. If they side with one, the universe continues as it does now, with a major power squashing those beneath it without a hint of remorse. If they side with the other, there is now a major power vacuum once again, which could potentially be filled by a completely unknown variable who could turn events out even worse than before. The difference between someone like Granolah and someone like Frieza is that Goku and Vegeta actually have experiences with Frieza, whether in the past or current modern day, as all three of them are very changed people since they first encountered one another. If Granolah is to be the one to fill this power vacuum and maybe even take over the Frieza Force if Frieza is gone, there is no telling what may happen. Even if Goku and Vegeta are allied with him at that point, he could immediately turn around and start hunting both Goku and Vegeta down, or much worse, find Earth and attack their families and their closest friends. There is really nothing to say that a decision to support one or the other remains permanent. We can easily have a situation where perhaps they side with Frieza, but no longer feel morally correct, going against someone who has very similar ideals to what they had once had in their revenge against Frieza. And while his may be slightly less heroic, it's still a very similar case of trying to avenge his race. Or, as I said before, it could be a case where after they side with Granolah, and if they win, they have to go against Granolah as well, as he becomes either too powerful or too dangerous. Perhaps this would create a different situation where they must team up with Frieza again to try and now depose the new Emperor. That could create an interesting situation where we go further into Frieza's character arc of not completely redeeming himself, but becoming more and more accustomed and more open, I should say, to allying himself with those Saiyans. And well, we don't even know if Goku and Vegeta would agree on the situation to begin with. However, This provides a golden opportunity for Goku to test just how far he will go on allowing those he's fought with to continue living, as well as his willingness to ally and help those he has just met. They are going to have to deal with the fact that their actions have consequences for completely different people that they may sometimes never meet. And that sometimes you have to decide whether or not you will involve yourself in others' problems, especially when they may end up affecting you as well. As for the rest of our fighting friends, back on Earth, on Vampa, in the other universes, we have even less of a clue of what is going to happen. This conflict could shape up to become an all-out, all-encompassing war between a pre-established empire and a rising star. They may need to pull out all the stops and find as many allies as they can and as they know. Wherever our heroes land, our Dragon Team, our Z-Fighters, whatever tides they may end up shifting, our only certainty is that something will be interesting. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you feel so inclined, we'll check back on me and the rest of the channel for hopefully a whole slew of new content finally arriving throughout the rest of the year. I honestly can't wait to look back on this video in a few months and especially a few years from now and just see how right or absolutely utterly wrong I was in any of my ideas. But that'll be then, and for now, I've been EtterDragon TV, and I'll catch y'all later.